Hey, everybody. Welcome back to CVO Gun Talk. We're as organized as ever because I got Big Mike with me.
We got a list.
We got a list, Mike. We can even just throw it back and forth. We can slide it. How's your work week? Where'd you just come from? Where are you going today?
I was working at the Iowa County Fair in the first aid tent, handing out junior paramedic stickers and looking at the cows, I guess.
Did you learn something about cows?
Yeah. I asked this one little guy, I said, so what are you doing? What are you doing? And he said, I was over showing my cow. I said, well, what sort of, and I can't even repeat it. He rattled off this like pygmy second generation heifer or something.
But he was proud, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. He knew all what he's talking about. He has little cowboy boots on and, his farm all hat. And, growing up in Iowa, I am not a farmer or a country boy whatsoever, so I have no idea what this. But they sure like that stuff.
You like Thai food and heavy metal. So
yeah, exactly, right?
You're not exactly like,
Did you ever eat Thai food after I took you to that restaurant?
One time.
Yeah? Was it good?
Yeah.
All right.
But have you ever had like a tenderloin in St. Olaf, Iowa? I mean, that'd make you a country boy.
Yeah, I've had tenderloins.
Gunner burgers, stuff like that. All right.
I enjoy this stuff.
You're well-rounded.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
I'm well-rounded, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And where are you going when you leave here?
Have to take. I'm going home tonight, but I got the night off. But tomorrow I'm taking a class. What?
July 15th, 2016. You have a night off?
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Date night.
So, yep, it's exactly right. And tomorrow I'm taking a class. So.
All right. What class you taking tomorrow?
It's called Pre-Hospital Trauma Life Support. It's a required class I have to do for my paramedic stuff. It's a two-day deal.
Should we talk again about how important medical skills are?
Yes, let's do that.
Well, hey, now, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not making light of that. If you watch the news, if you're like me, drive my wife crazy, I can't turn off the TV once we saw the shit had hit the fan in France again, but pretty harrowing images.
Yeah, I didn't get to see a lot of it. I mean, because I was pretty busy yesterday, but I've seen a lot of the headlines and a lot of people hurt and killed.
Yeah, 80, I think, I looked before we got in here, 84 dead and 200 injured, it said. But, it's back to that idea of, I don't want to, I shouldn't say I don't want to talk about every show. I shouldn't talk about it, but.
Let's talk about it every show.
Let's do it. I mean, medical, dude, it's what could help people. And you have to study pictures like that and learn from it. People are like, oh, why do you show those pictures or why do you look at that so much? How do you learn anything in the medical field unless you look at what did or didn't work? Right. And yeah, there's blood and it's gory and there's people's lives. And I'm not unemotional about it. That absolutely the opposite is, what are you going to learn from it? What can we do? And I looked at some of those pictures of the people laying in the street, huge puddles of blood around them. And it drives you nuts saying, okay, did somebody just bleed out from something that a tourniquet could have stopped?
Yeah.
How many people in France carry a tourniquet? I don't know.
I would say it's pretty minimal. It doesn't fit in skinny jeans at all.
Well, and that's the thing is violence is a human problem. That's all it is. It's not us or them or guns or trucks. It's a human problem. And whether you had a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, medical skills, man, we all say that, these people, us gun people that carry guns and do all this training, we want to help people if we can. That's the way we're going to help people.
So we had that class. Let me go back even farther. So little feel-good story. So just Tuesday, the guy that we talked about we talked about in class, we'll talk about it last episode, where I did have to use a tourniquet and he's bleeding out all over.
Sure.
Came to see me.
Oh, that's cool.
He's doing great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that you don't get a lot of feedback in my job, so that was good.
No, and you're right. I mean, everybody in the doctors, nurses, all them, EMTs, paramedics, yeah, it's a one-way deal sometimes to where, they remember you and they talk about you, but how many of them show up and say, hey, good job, thanks.
He offered me some produce from his garden.
That's cool.
So that was nice. A little reward there.
That's respectful. So, since we're talking about medical stuff, this and that, did you see in the news, I've been watching all the comments about the guy who was killed with one punch in Iowa.
I did read that article, and it didn't have a lot in it. I was wondering, did he have some underlying medical condition or, To me, it looked like he had some sort of brain bleed or a head injury.
Yeah.
So maybe he's on blood thinners or whatever. But yeah, that's very freaky.
Yeah, but not that rare.
No,
No.
I mean it could happen.
You
It
know,
obviously can happen.
People talk about, and it's I've been watching people on Facebook or whatever, social media say, this couldn't have happened, or he had to be, he had to have brass knuckles, he had to have this. I mean, that's sad if you don't understand that you could be killed with one punch. Absolutely. Let alone, did it instantly kill him? No. Could any of us be punched and fall over and hit your head on the corner of the desk as you fall? Yeah. Hit your head on a curb? Yeah. So, again, I'm not I tell students to pay attention to stories like that because, it's not like a checklist of, hey, I can shoot anybody anytime I want if they match this, this, and this. But it's one of those examples. If I was trying to tell somebody, hey, you did this and we think it's wrong, and I say, hey, I'm not going to take a chance and go fisticuffs with a guy, especially like in my own house when I'm wearing a firearm and my family's home. And, you get a box full of jurors that say, well, I saw this guy get punched 10 times. Or what about boxers? Well, again, we understand that jurors pretty much have never gone through whatever it is you're on trial for, or they wouldn't be on your jury. But one punch can kill people.
Yep, it's proven. Happened.
Yeah, so I tell students, keep track of stuff like that. It's learn from it. Learn from it, and makes it all the more important of, hey, let's maybe not leave and let it get to that point at all. Like, let's try to keep people away from us. And back to that whole training idea, right?
All right.
Like, maybe we could say some things, or maybe we could run away. Run away doesn't sound cool unless you're watching the, Search for the Holy Grail, but it's a pretty smart idea sometimes.
Well, to totally jump subjects, and we can come back to that.
Do it. Jump.
So, but did you see the discussion that I saw on one of the self-defense sites where, I think I'll get this right, that this reporter was armed. He's a concealed carry advocate up in Northwest. He entered a crowd of hostile people. They tried to beat him up. He ended up shooting a few guys. But now he's on trial for manslaughter because he did not take the opportunity to retreat when he had the opportunity to retreat. He actually advanced back towards them at some point. So they're saying at that point he became the aggressor. And that's a very important concept for people to understand.
Yeah, I don't care that you didn't start it. The point is that you further perpetuated it by wandering into the crowd of people that you thought might hurt you. So,
right. Well, there goes the whole avoidance thing. Could you avoid it? Are your actions reasonable? Did you use the appropriate amount of force? Was there just,
well, and
disparate amount of force?
Well, disparity of force, a crowd of people versus one guy, absolutely it's disparity of force. But back to the idea of, all we can do is learn from guys like that and say, let's see if you could go backwards with your hindsight and your rewind button and, like the latest DVR commercials with Bon Jovi. That would be a perfect one for him to do.
Can you believe that he's fell to that level? That's just a little aside thing.
Still got more money than you and me. So
I know, but still, I'm disappointed.
I like the commercials. They're funny. So if we could turn back time, you tell that guy, what in your job were you doing that was worth that? What was worth wandering into this crowd of people? Just like when you said avoidance in class, we try to use examples of, hey, look at Ferguson, Missouri. I know it 2 different times. You're watching the news live. They're down there, whatever reporter from whatever famous place is walking through there interviewing people, why are you mad at these people? And then you go over here, why are you people mad at these people? And it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, you're just putting yourself in the middle of some heated, emotional people that 99% of them are not going to beat the hell out of you. But that's not good enough when you can just stay away from it all. So back to that idea of if you think you need a gun to go somewhere, don't go there. Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. And then people are then, why do you carry a gun everywhere you go? It just happens to be that I was carrying my gun when I went to wherever. I didn't say, hey, I got to go rent a movie at Walgreens on First Avenue, so I'm going to strap on 3 guns before I go. No. Wear it everywhere you can, except, schools and federal buildings. Places like that, courthouses.
Right. Places you're not supposed to.
Yeah. places where people should,
You are not legally able to.
yeah, places where we tell people all the time, no, you can't do that. They're like, well, they never told me that in our class. I'm like, they don't have to. They should have, sure, but you're the one that has a carry permit. So something about, ignorance about the law isn't an excuse, I think they told me.
If that's true.
Classes. Hey, I said the word class. I will throw you under the bus because you don't know. But yeah, later today, I'm sure we'll get it out in the internet the next day or two, but we'll get your next medical class set up because there's already enough local people interested, let alone I'm going to send you to the Quad Cities to do it. So,
Did you get any feedback? I actually got one of the individuals brought his wife, and he's a Cedar Rapids firefighter.
who works with Jesse?
Yeah.
The
actually,
Ox Linux.
We talked about Jesse, both
I
mutual.
talk about Jesse all the time.
Yeah, mutually acquaintance or friends of Jesse. But hey, Jesse, if you're listening, right?
Hi, Jesse.
So hello.
I wish I looked like Jesse on camera.
Yeah,
No.
I got to quit.
We'd have more followers.
I forget there's no camera.
We're kind of like I was watching Fox News this morning where they, it comes back from commercial and there's two people just staring at each other and nobody's talking yet. And then they're like, the
Thank you.
yeah.
But anyway, what I was going to say is he actually emailed me a nice review.
Awesome.
So that's good. So have you heard any feedback? Are people
Yes.
well received?
Absolutely.
Good.
And, again, I always say people would take me more serious if I wasn't Ernie from Cedar Valley Outfitters. Like, because if it's about guns or training, they're like, well, of course he's saying that. But no, I mean, that's the pride I take in knowing you. And what we do is people come back and say, that was solid. That was awesome. Or, hey, that's the same thing kind of Nathan told us, but Mike said it in a different way. And I picked up this time. You know how it is. Nobody comes in there
Sure.
and memorizes all it. Again, mechanically, it's a simple class. Here's how to plug holes. Here's how to save people. All you have to do is watch some of the footage. If you're a grown-up and you want to deal with it, go on the internet and go to the different websites like LiveLeak or wherever. I'm not responsible for the booby ads or the penis pill ads, but you go watch the real violence that took place.
Those are at no charge.
No charge. You just listen to that like I try to tell everybody. I tell myself. My wife will be like, oh, my God, why are you watching that again? But you listen to the madness and the chaos going on. You can watch the one, let alone the one that's filmed from way back. I'm talking about if you've watched the one from like somebody filming in the crowd. So all you hear is the impact in the beginning and people in front of them start taking off every direction and just, again, the madness. And then after the truck passes by and, literally you can watch the video of all the people laying in the street screaming and yelling. And again, it's not hard to put a tourniquet on somebody, but it's a lot harder if you care about them. Even if you don't know them, you care about them and they're flailing around and, you got squished body parts.
So you're talking about this last terrorist attack or what they think might be a terrorist attack?
No, it's terrorist attack.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, when I say
Could
terrorist,
it be anything else?
do I care if it's one guy? No. I mean, this is just Ernie's version of, terrorism is you want to kill a whole bunch of people. So, maybe that makes me simple-minded, but I'm going to roll with, kind of like if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and walks like a duck. So when you have a guy in France that wants to kill a whole bunch of people, I'm going to say it's probably terror-related.
Okay.
In the long run, I don't care. It's somebody that wants to hurt people. So I was trying to use the word terrorism because even though you can say what you want on a podcast, I'm not going to go out there and say what I really think. So use like a bunch of swear words and other stuff, lighting them on fire and stuff like that, pouring more gas on them, So, and I'm not belittling it. There's evil people out there. They'll do whatever. I've seen several. Rob Pincus, right before I came in here, he had a post about, basically saying, wow, consider this, how many people this is and how bad it is. And dude, it doesn't matter if it's a truck or a chainsaw or a bomb or a gun or whatever, evil's evil. If you're biblical, you can go back to Cain and Abel. Tell me how that went wrong. So, it's a human issue. It's a human problem, and people can't keep looking for solutions in, this mechanical device. If we get rid of this or control it, it's going to stop things. I mean, again, people throw out my opinion sometimes. They throw it away because I own a gun store instead of maybe you could consider that means I know more gun people than the average person, and they're not a bunch of, crazy white redneck dudes like people picture Red Dawn being or something, which I would totally want those guys on my side at the end of the world.
That's the greatest movie ever made.
Hey, I need like 15 guys to pee in this radiator. So, but you know the type of people we teach. I mean, and that's the thing is, I'm, how many moms are in there, whatever. And I don't care about the who's who of society. Dr. So-and-so came and this lawyer came. But I mean, that's the thing is I'm more impressed when you tell people, hey, look at this 21-year-old girl going off to school, or this mom of these children, she's in our class because she knows, hey, I'm the mama bear. I have to protect them.
Well, they're taking responsibility and
responsibility.
Rather than concentrate on changing laws to, corral certain tools into certain places or certain things into certain places.
You can say gun control. It's
well,
okay
I'm
to say.
I'm not even talking about gun control. I'm talking about there's laws for lots of things to keep people from doing things that other people don't think.
You mean there's lots of laws that establish sentences so we can put people in prison for designated amounts of time because we know people are going to commit those crimes. We already have sentencing guidelines for everything.
I'm talking about government overreach.
Oh, government overreach.
And I'm saying it's better for people to worry about developing their awareness, developing their personal responsibility. What are you going to do about a terrorist attack in Iowa? You're going to check out your surroundings, going to make sure your car is full of gas. You're going to put a blanket in the back in the wintertime. So if you get stuck on the highway, it's going to be warm. And,
you're kind of starting to sound like a prepper now.
I'm not talking about being a prepper, but I am talking about being a prepper. I'm talking
about being prepared. Is there anything wrong with being a prepper?
No, you caught me on that last time.
Yeah, no.
You said I can't be a conspiracy theorist, or I can be a conspiracy theorist.
Hey, what's funny, Mike? You and I are old enough that, if your parents lived out in the country, they had things like a cellar with the vegetables that they put away.
Yep.
And they had enough food to live for like at least 10 days or a couple weeks. And like if their driveway was plowed in for 3 days, like that used to be in the good old days, it's like it wasn't the end of the world because
because they could survive.
They survived because they didn't count on anybody else to keep them safe or fed.
And that's what we need to do to combat. I mean, that's what we can do as individuals.
Sure.
Individual, everyday, John Q. public citizen. If you're not a gun person or you don't want anything to do with that, well, you can make sure you're not a liability.
Absolutely.
You can make sure your 911 address in case something happens. Mm-hmm. You can at least call the police or at least, hey, check this out. Which way is north, south, east, and west? So I can give some directions to public safety people.
Is the sun out your left window or your right window? Yeah. So,
but I was talking about government overreach. Check this out. I just saw an article this morning. This is going to be a shocker.
When you say you saw an article, though, what's the source?
The source was CNN.
Okay, I like it because I read the other team too. I have to.
But this is going to shock you. But a state senator in New York said they needed to have some legislation to make some rules and parameters for people playing Pokemon Go because these people are going to hurt themselves.
Again, I understand. Hey, I'll agree with one thing there, and that is the parts people are going to hurt themselves doing it. They hurt themselves walking and texting and driving, and every other thing that doesn't have anything to do with Pokemon Go.
But do we have to always babysit people?
No, we don't. No. You can't save them all. And
do we even need to care?
No. I personally think Pokemon Go is awesome, even though I don't even play it. And all I know is it's making people walk around outside and interact.
My 3 kids who never talk to each other.
Yeah.
Were all out the other day.
They're like 3, 5, and 7, aren't they?
No, they're 21, 25, and 30.
You had sex with the babysitter.
I did.
Okay.
So.
All right.
They were out together.
You just mentally pictured who your babysitter was for a minute.
I did.
Okay.
She was hot.
Oh.
Together doing this the other night. As a group, as a family, right? Yesterday when I was working a shift at the PD, I had some very positive interactions with the community, right? Well. Hey, what are you guys doing? Playing Pokemon. Okay. Hey, how's that work? They were very happy to show me how that works.
Yep.
And now they had a good perception of the police. We made some contact. It's not always a bad guy thing.
Yeah. it's I see when I say I see both sides. I understand people that make the statements like you saw the meme. It's like, oh, hey, I'm not 10 and I have shit to do. And I saw a good a guy ran about that on Facebook. But the point is, it's kind of like when we talk about, hey, be aware of your surroundings, do this and that. Dude, if you don't mentally let down once in a while. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be unaware as you walk around in strange areas, focused on your phone. These are all things we tell people not to do.
So, yeah, you don't do that.
But when you're with 55 other people in Green Square Park downtown, or with your parents, hey, I bet you right now there's more kids getting out walking around than have in the last 5 years for any other cause.
It's funny, though. I was laughing the other day, too, and man, this show's taking a real left turn.
No,
but anyway,
we never promised anything about this show other than I would have Big Mike McAmeal on there. Hey, look, I hit my button on my chair. I'm getting lower.
You need to get it.
Lever?
So what I was going to say is, there's nothing new under the sun. You know what this whole phenomenon really is? It's geocaching.
It's geocaching. It is geocaching. It's just more interactive. Geocaching never made anybody any money.
No.
Pokemon people are brilliant.
They are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to go to them and say, here's what we ask of you. Let's make these places that have tons of Pokemon to be captured. Let's have like a AED there, a medical kit. Teach kids stuff. So, I saw that somebody was explaining you can pay to have, me as a business, you can pay to have characters there or whatever, make people show up, which I'm like, I don't want 10-year-old kids in my gun store. I don't want 15-year-old kids in my gun store alone. Let me make that clear, alone. And I don't want some of the 45-year-old kids in my gun store that are just looking for Pokemon. But I understand why some businesses would think that's cool.
Get some more traffic in there.
Yeah. I don't need that kind of traffic. But it is funny to watch people go crazy and upset about this, about how stupid it is. It's like, dude, if all you have to worry about in your life is what those people are doing, smiling, walking around, chasing things.
Are they bothering you?
Yeah, they must not have real problems.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I need new tires, and my daughter's car needs new tires, and she had all her money stolen last night, by the way, real story. So it's like, there's all these kids running around playing Pokemon. I like them a lot more than I like whoever it is that took my wife or my daughter's, debit card numbers last night in the middle of her trip and drained her bank account in like 2 hours. So
that happened to my son the other day too. It took him like about a week to get all his money back.
Well, the problem for her is she was flying from Atlanta to Norfolk, Virginia, and it all happened in that time frame.
Oh, that sucks.
Poof, you got to where you're going on vacation and you have no money.
Wow.
Yeah, so in a little while here, I'm going to learn about how to use Western Union. So
I didn't even know they still had those.
They do. I have to go there and learn how to do it because I need to make the money magically go down there to her. Which
it's not that hard.
I know. It's frustrating knowing that there's bad guys at every level in every town, everywhere that, no, that's not a violent crime. It's just an annoying crime that interrupts. And I get really furious about it because people are like, well, it's not a violent crime. Well, sometimes your safety, your actual safety is based on whether you have like money to buy, hey, you can go get a good hotel room because you have money, or you can go here and eat a decent meal, or go buy some basic necessities that you need, like hygiene stuff and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit frustrated that, now she's walking around another state with like the $122 I gave her. So
yeah, that's a little scary.
It's frustrating. I kind of want to introduce them to Melton, and I'm going to point at those people that stole her money and say, they have your swing line stapler, and I'll send him after him. So he'll put guacamole in there. Or what is it, strychnine in the guacamole?
Strychnine, yeah.
Yeah. All right, ma'am. Hey, look, we have a list. Should we stick to the list?
Yeah.
Hey, out of respect for Jesse the Ox Lennox, you know what he wanted to talk about. Do you remember this?
Remind me. I'll remember.
Bullet in the chamber or no bullet in the chamber?
Loaded or unloaded
he feverishly defended that, and I get where he's coming from, but I just kept almost making him mad at me, saying, so basically you're saying it's a training issue. He's like, yeah, but until they're uncomfortable with that, or till they're comfortable doing that. I'm like, how do you get comfortable doing that? Well, by doing it. So it's a training issue.
So what is the problem? Some people are reluctant to carry their firearm with a round in the chamber. Why?
Number one thing I hear, because I hear it all the time in the store.
I'm
Number
sure.
one here I think is, well, dude, that's like pointing right at my junk. I don't want that to go off. And I'm like, that would be a mechanical malfunction, of which I believe in. Like, they do happen in real life somewhere. But can you show me where like a modern striker-fired gun, especially from the name brands of which we suggest, that they rhyme with like Glock and Springfield and Smith & Wesson or HK, whatever. But I understand what gets me is people way smarter than me shop at my store. I mean, look, hey, we're in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So you got a bunch of like Rockwell engineers that are way smarter than I am, and they want to know like how everything works. And I'm not the best person in the world to say, let's dissect all 33 parts and talk about exactly what angle this works at and how it works. It's just, it works, dude. So the problem is people have you're back to like fearing this thing can do things on its own. And so I don't want to say, hey, you're just like the people that think guns are the problem. It's only going to do what you tell it to do. Now, is there such thing as, well, you were in the class. Is there such thing as people like catching their little knobby from their windbreaker zipper tie and their trigger and almost pulling the trigger? Sure. That's, you pull the trigger and the gun went bang. That's called like how the gun works, right? So my thing is, this is my non-scientific. So I could hear Rob Pincus right now. I know he doesn't listen to us, so it's okay. But I could hear him saying, without any proof, it doesn't mean anything. Here's my assessment of owning a gun store for whatever, 15 plus years, being in the industry for 20 years. The people that aren't comfortable and they're worried about their gun going off from having a round in the chamber are the people I usually see with the most improper holsters, or they carry it somewhere else they shouldn't, like a purse. And they have no training normally, or very little training, which had nothing to do with carrying a gun. Does that make sense? Like, I went to NRA Basic Pistol. Well, that's awesome. And it's good to learn how to shoot a gun and learn those basics of shooting a gun, like target shooting. But you know what happens when you get people out on the gun range. How many times have we taught people that hadn't even touched a firearm? Not like, hey, I haven't shot in a long time, or I grew up with shotguns and never used a handgun, of which we've had all those people, right?
Right.
I'm
Absolutely.
talking like the class of 15 ladies that 6 of them had never touched a handgun. It's not super hard if you follow the directions and your confidence builds. We watched them, and of course we start out not out of the holster, right? Because we don't do finger gun stuff. So, if people draw a gun from a holster over and over and over in one day, and it's their first day of doing it, and they have zero issues or safety concerns, or they grow confident in, hey, guess what? Finger somewhere other than the trigger area. Don't you always say like where the slide meets the frame?
I usually do.
Okay. So you have to get out there and do that to build your confidence. When people say, I'm going to carry it for 3 or 4 weeks or 4 months first, I don't care how much you carried your gun with no round in the chamber to learn that it didn't go off or it wouldn't go off. First of all, I read the article saying, well, if you ever find your trigger pulled to the rear, then that would have been a negligent discharge or accidental discharge, what they wanted to call an accident, right? That doesn't get you the experience of going out and training. Everybody's going to go back to, you're trying to get me to go to class. Yes,
we are.
Yes, we are. Because, guns go off negligently when people do the wrong thing, putting the gun away or getting the gun out, right? Usually more putting the gun away.
Usually reholstering and unholstering and reholstering is when most negligent discharges happen.
Let's just say like at a minimum, I'm using a super low minimum. We're going to say even in an introductory class, you're coming out of the holster 50 times, right?
Sure.
Like way minimum. So 50 times you came out of the holster, 50 times you went back into the holster, there's 100 reps. That would be for the normal person, 100 reps of getting dressed every day and going to work by putting a gun on, taking a gun off when they get home, right? And we did all that like in the last 2 hours, let's say.
And we'd even recommend in that, just a little side note that, and I do this, you don't have to unholster your firearm to take it off. You just take off the whole holster.
Oh, you mean it's safe in the holster?
Yeah, you can just leave it there.
Why are you such a proponent of that?
Because the less administrative gun handling that you do, the less chance that things are going to go bang.
I didn't set you up right, but my point is holsters are made the way they are because they keep the gun safe.
Yes.
Weapons retention. You're a cop.
Yeah.
You're fighting for your life and you don't know that you can have control of your gun outside the holster. What do? You fight to keep it in the holster because the gun doesn't go bang in the holster, right?
Right.
So if we could get people just to understand that when you keep your finger off the trigger and put the gun properly in the holster, it now magically isn't going to go off, is it?
It will not.
No. And, the lawyers are going to say, you can't ever say that it won't go off for sure. But
that's what Loretta Lynch says. Ernie, hypothetically, I don't have enough.
No, she doesn't say anything. She says, I'll refer you to the statute.
Yes, I refer you to the statute, and I can't really answer this yes or no question.
I don't have an answer for every hypothetical.
Yes.
If there was spider monkeys in the ceiling carrying dual-barreled 1911s.
Double-shot rifles with scopes from Walmart.
Hey, the difference between a assault rifle and a hunting rifle is the scope on it.
It is.
I heard that from the firearms expert they had on Fox News.
She was awesome.
Yes. I threw up in my mouth a little bit like I had to eat tofu. And then I felt like I chewed up the tofu, threw it back up in my mouth again. So, yeah, that's when I think you saw me ranting on Facebook is, I don't 100% believe in any news source. And it's just like I used to have a little more faith than Fox News. And people can hate them for whatever they want. But what I'm saying is factually, they're usually pretty good. The gun expert lady was like, I'm like, dude, I don't call one of my competitors in town. I don't care. Call Midwest.
Talk
call
to
Shields,
that chair
call,
right there.
Hey, call anybody and talk to somebody that works at a gun store better than that lady. Really. Hey, double shot rifle.
And it was the Echo.
I almost bought a double shot, iced coffee on the way here, but a double shot rifle. Maybe she meant drilling. She just mixed the word, she meant like, 2 rifle barrels and a shotgun barrel. She's a big like Belgian-made drilling fan. I don't know, but
I don't know.
Anyway, where?
So, but what is the number one reason? Or I'll tell you.
You tell me,
Mike. What's the number one reason?
Hey, Mike. What's the number one reason that people don't carry around in their chamber?
Well, the reason they should is because they are not going to have the time to react realistically.
Well, dude, I live with my head on a swivel. I'll see it coming.
Because of your situational awareness.
I'm Jason Bourne. I'm looking at you right now.
So if you are, so we'll even go step it back a little farther. If you're situationally aware enough to know that something bad is going to happen,
you'd be gone.
Didn't we just talk about that?
Yeah.
So you are realistically not going to see it coming. You're going to be ambushed potentially. You are definitely not going to have time to whip out your firearm, recognize the threat, rack that slide, get a good grip, find your target. Hey, where's my dog? Oh, wait a minute. Find your dog. You know, all those things they're not going to happen.
Well, you and I, it's like watching the Israelis who there's people that train, but you watch that video that everybody passed around, which is a good video to learn from, is those Israeli policemen that got stabbed by the Palestinian dude they were talking to. It's just human nature, dude. Somebody leaps up and starts to stab you with a knife. Your brain, even though you say, oh my God, I need my gun, he did not rack his slide when he pulled his gun out. He tried to make it squirt bullets. I like how Mike Anderson says that. You're going to want to get your gun out really fast and start squirting bullets.
Well, the first reaction you're going to have, somebody's trying to stab you, is your first reaction is going to be, let me grab the thing that's stabbing me.
Oh, you mean like spear or whatever?
Well,
that's when you teach people to flinch, right? You're the flinch teacher?
No, I mean, that happens. I mean, that's after that.
Oh.
It just kind of happens.
Okay.
I'm saying that your brain is not going to. I don't believe it's going to actually go to. Let me get my gun out first.
No,
It's going to let me knock this knife away.
Sure.
Let me get some space. Then maybe you're like, okay. Or maybe if you're holding the knife desperately in one hand to keep him from continually stabbing you, then maybe you'll get your gun out one-handed. And then, oh my God, there's nothing in the chamber. How am I going to rack it?
Yeah, that's a thing.
And now you're wasting even more time.
Sure. What should I do if I ever wonder if my gun's loaded?
Well, you should probably just rack the slide and see what happens.
I like that about you. Keep it simple. Yeah, I don't. And people are, even Jesse, bless his heart. Jesse is awesome at playing devil's advocate. And it's like, hey, Ernie, if it gets people to carry this and that. And I get it. I get it that Jesse's like, any way we can get people to do this safely. We're not asking them to do something unsafe, but aren't we? If you're telling somebody that walking around with a gun in a holster, telling yourself That's your counter ambush tool.
Well,
But it's not.
I'm gonna be the hard ass here, I guess, and I'm gonna tell you that if you're doing that, you're negligent,
Yeah.
and you are a liability.
Well, when I say liability, though, I'm going to tell you that you're a liability to yourself. You're counting on a tool.
And your liability to your family, who's like, oh, so and so's armed, he'll protect us.
Click.
Not so much.
It's a loud click.
Yes.
In your military career, did you ever have a click?
Sure, you have clicks, malfunctions. You don't seat the magazine properly. I mean, stuff happens.
I bet that's a loud click.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
But then you go through your malfunction.
What kind of malfunction?
Well, your malfunction drill, reloading drill, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. I mean, I heard you call it a fancier name one time when we were on the range.
What did I call it?
Well, it like rhymed with non-diagnostic.
Oh, yeah, right.
Drill, Anyway, we teach people that
non-diagnostic linear malfunction.
we actually teach that on a gun range, don't we?
Yes.
Speaking of which, yeah, you're not going to be there to help me this Sunday. I have class this Sunday.
I know. I got to take that class I was talking about.
So,
Are you going to be able to handle it without me?
Yeah, I like stepping back in and having to do everything once in a while. Who's going to be there to say, you have your sunglasses on when you're talking, Ernie?
Your Viking does not look like a Viking, Mike.
I'm going to tell people their prescription. I'm a shade talker. No, I just wanted to let you know that I think Weather Bug or whatever says 30 to 50% chance of storms, blah, blah, blah. I'm teaching the whole class, so 112% chance of storms.
Yes.
So it's all right. We'll shoot from the overhang.
What do you always tell me when that happens?
What, when it rains?
Yeah,
normally I tell you it's
let me paraphrase. Bring your A game. You'd be doing a lot of lecture.
There you go. But I do love the lecture part, but it's, until class is over, and this to be true, like once students have gone through, and not just us, I don't care, I say the program, whether you went to Omari, I had good friends that are, 5 and 10 year customers that went to CFS, and Omari taught it, which Omari, and I think you like him. And
I do.
I know. And it was awesome to hear them say, hey, again, and we talked about this. He's like, dude, why did I start doing this years ago? I know you told me, blah, 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 but I like the way that you teach people. I like to teach people too. And the thing is people are like, what do you mean it's half lecture? If you said, hey, half of this is lecture, they picture you like sitting in a classroom, and then we go to the gun range and just shoot a bunch in a row, and I'm like, hey, it's not kind of like that.
Yeah, we don't spend any time in a classroom per se, really.
First 15 minutes.
Maybe first 15 minutes.
Because there's donuts.
And coffee.
Yeah. It is liquid gold. I mean, that Velveeta commercial is kind of a lie because coffee is liquid gold.
It is.
Bubbling crude up from the ground. All right. Loaded versus unloaded. We didn't have a very, that wasn't a very scientific discussion.
No, but I mean, it's not. It's
While
kind of
you're
an emotional.
getting stabbed, will you remember to rack your fly?
No, you won't. Well,
Okay.
you may
Okay.
if you practice that way a lot, but it's not efficient. I mean, I may remember to do a lot of things, but you want to be the most efficient that you can, so you have to remember less, and it becomes a learned reaction.
Why do
Right?
we not suggest for people? Why do we not promote carrying a gun in a purse?
Well, because for one, it's not efficient, and usually people that carry in a purse don't have it properly secured, or it's not the trigger guard's not covered, and a lot of things that holsters are supposed to do.
Sure, if you're going to keep it in your purse, have it in a holster with the trigger guard covered. And then what do you think? Okay, I'm just going to say it. We don't have time. We're going to move on. Most people that carry a gun in a purse don't carry around in the chamber either, because they tell me, oh, well, here's the kind of things you hear, real-life gun store stories. Well, I don't want to keep around in there because my kids get in there. That's a whole different other problem.
Right.
Or I got to have a gun with a physical safety because I carry it in my purse and my kids get in there. They get gum out of there. They do whatever. They're allowed to be in there. No. That's where we're going to go back to lifestyle change and some other decisions. And when women say, absolutely not, I would never leave my purse anywhere. And my favorite realistic example is, sure you will, because if you're at the buffet with your friends, pretending like nobody sees that you're going back for seconds, because we all do. You and I eat like thirds and fourths and sevenths.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah. You'll leave your purse at the booth with your three friends. You'll go up there and snag some more, like all-you-can-eat crab legs.
Cheesy party potatoes.
Oh, don't say that. So, now you left your purse 25 feet away, 30 feet away, whatever, this thing called Ruby Steakhouse. People come inside restaurants and shoot people sometimes. Became popular in the 80s in McDonald's, but it's, people get mad. You don't tell them what they want to hear. It's like, okay, when you walk out of Walmart and there's like those pop machines right outside of Walmart, or usually there's the little grabby win this thing, whatever. Hey, that's right where I'm standing, right behind that. So you walk out of Walmart and out of your peripheral vision, you see some really fast movement. And by the way, that's the punch that hits you in the ear. Boom. That's going to ring your bell. You're going to hit the ground. Your purse may not went flying. What is that first thought? I don't know. I don't think it's even a thought, right? Isn't that why they call it a reaction? Mm-hmm. Like maybe curl up in the fetal position and protect yourself? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find that not conducive with grabbing a gun and racking the slide. But
No, I'd agree. I mean, I just don't think it's, I already said, I think it's negligent to carry that way.
Mm-hmm. You're making some people mad right now.
Well, that's okay. They can be mad.
I like it.
You can write me at, what's your email address?
Mm-hmm. CVO Guns at yahoo.com.
You can write me.
You can send the hate mail there. Bring the hate. I
Send
embrace
all the
the
hate
haters.
mail to Ernie.
I embrace the haters. Jesse taught me to. I embrace them.
But I mean, I'm just
Some of them I
giving
squeeze
some
harder than others, but
quote unquote real talk here, and we're not going to sugarcoat it and tell them it's okay because it's not okay.
no. We're tool-bearing mammals, and maybe somewhere on your waist is a good place to wear a gun with a round in the chamber.
That's where we usually keep it.
An efficient gun.
An efficient place to keep it.
Yeah. I really don't think some people get it until they come out and train. Because that we've had people that they got it, the light came on, and they soak up the training and they like it. We have people that agreed with all the training and the drills and they like what they learned, but they were still like, nope, I'm just going to master this gun because it's still the gun I want. It has 2 different brake pressures, 2 different gas pedal pressures, and a whole bunch of buttons and levers and switches.
So can you get really good with those types of firearms?
You sure can.
But don't you think
Yes,
theoretically,
Yes, Mike. It takes hundreds of more hours to master it.
and you could be better with a simpler tool?
Sure, you could.
With that same amount of training?
But, dude, Navy SEALs used it. So, anyway, see, I just shut you down. Navy SEALs used it.
I know. I got nothing.
Yeah. They use Gold Bond powder, too, but I think they have to. They need it sometimes.
And they got frog lube and what they call those bungee X things. And if you put Navy SEAL, apologies to all my Navy SEAL friends. You guys know I love you.
Oh, I have all the respect in the world for them.
If you put Navy SEAL next to anything, it's suddenly way cooler, apparently.
Well, I just didn't know, did they get to select from 15 different firearms when they used the SIG P226?
I don't think any Navy SEAL got to pick anything.
Oh, okay.
I think the Department of the Navy probably made that decision.
I didn't know how that worked. I do wish they could all pick the firearms they got to use. I mean, they're the ones going in harm's way. I wish they could pick their favorite tools to do it. Whether I agreed with it or not, I wish they had their favorite tools.
Just on that subject, we had an arms room in my old unit with a lot of, quote unquote exotic firearms. Mm-hmm. And we had Thompson submachine guns in there, for God's sakes.
Sure.
We could, depending on the mission parameters, you could request to take different weapon systems if you thought they would, make the mission more successful. But 99% of the time, you go with the standards. Mm-hmm. Your AR-15 or M16, mm-hmm. your 9mm pistol.
Compatibility with other people's weapon
compatibility, just what you've trained with. Why would you pick something that you haven't trained with for hundreds of thousands of hours?
I understand.
But
where were you, Uzbekistan or however you pronounce it?
I've been there, yes.
Yeah. I would like to see the situation where you're like, hey, I'm requesting the Thompson submachine gun because for this operation, I'm going to roll into town buck-ass naked wearing roller skates and just carrying a Thompson because that mental image right there would just horrify people.
That would be awesome.
Yep. Maybe just a bandolier or stick mags. But people fear the thumper, man. The Thompson talks.
They do.
The Thompson talks.
They do.
And, hey, you know what? It worked well in World War II.
Right. It did. It was good for its day. But technology,
yeah.
I cannot
It's coming along?
See, this stuff is crack. You introduced me to this?
Well, yeah.
And
don't tell people I told you what crack is.
Anyway.
All right.
I can't talk right now, but
technology's come a long way?
It has.
Really?
So why would you step back?
Yeah.
I'm still not using the, dial-up phone I had 15 years ago.
Landlines work though. I like those. You're not driving a Model A here, did you?
No, I did not drive a Model A.
All right.
I drove the TARDIS here.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm going to focus. Ready?
All right.
Here we go. Focusing.
Check.
There's this guy that follows us. Do you ever watch on Facebook? James Tracy. Wherever you're out there, man. Hey, James Tracy.
Yeah,
He
I think I know
He
who James
totally
is.
likes to hear you talk. So that's
Yeah.
good. We better keep you talking. Carbine class. Selling lots of ARs. People are worried about politics, gun control, whatever. So be it. And I'm sure there's other like bigger gun stores that sell even more scary black guns than I do. But so the one thing they could still all use is some training. So carbine class, you're teaching on July 30th.
Yes.
It's like 8.5 hours long.
Yep.
How many rounds you going to go through?
We got it slated for like 800.
Wow.
Was that many?
Make it warm. I like it. So, yeah. I'll
We
put
don't, we,
the
don't
word
really,
up.
we don't really keep round counts. You know that.
I know
we
you
just
don't.
shoot till we're done.
Yeah. What'd you tell me? You teach a curriculum, not students?
Yes.
I just want to. It's going to look like magical unicorns pooped glittery, like brass everywhere after that class. That'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
You get 10 people to go through 800 rounds. I'll be impressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fun.
Yeah, we'll see if it fills up. If it doesn't fill up, man, I'm in. I'm taking your class.
Okay.
Because I like to burn my hand on my AR barrel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be a good time. It'll teach people that maybe are familiar with the platform in a different context. Or,
Like a bench rest context?
or a longer range context, because like all the other combat focused shooting type classes we have, it's a self-defense context. So we're going to talk about using it as a defensive tool and
Sure.
maybe not a long range shooting
Sure.
tool. We're not going to be talking about sniper employment here.
Yeah. Like, can you shoot me in the eye 15 feet away?
That's different. We're going to have a whole entire class on how to build a ghillie suit, and
I understand. But no, I said, can you shoot me in the eye 15 feet away? That's pretty important.
Well, yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
Can you shoot me in the chest 10 feet away?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But more importantly, can I use an AR as an effective home defense tool at distances that may be common in my house?
Sure. Yeah. In your house, it's like, I don't know if you got like 50-yard or 100-yard long hallways.
Well, I have
don't
a
know.
mansion and a yacht, so
Okay.
it's very big.
If you have a yacht, do you also have like a cool cigarette boat, or is it like a sailboat next to your yacht, or
It's like,
just a yacht?
What's a cigarette boat? Is that like the Miami Vice
Yeah,
boats?
man.
Yeah. No,
I
I
wanna
don't have
live-
one. I don't have one of those.
I want to live with an alligator on a boat.
I don't even have a boat. My neighbor has a boat.
All right, so rifle class, July 30th. I'm going to keep harping on people because I sell lots of ARs, and yet I don't see lots of people taking classes.
Come see me. You'll like it.
Yeah, they will too. And that was great feedback from your class that you taught over at Brownells. And I think a couple of those people that were, of course, from this local area, they will be telling their friends because that's a good class. Speaking of which, I don't know if you even heard the story or whatever yesterday. Getting out of my car yesterday. I had to run out to the range to test fire a guy's gun that he said it didn't work, and John put a new buffer in it. Took the fancy aftermarket hydraulic whatever buffer out of it, and yes, it ran fine. Weird how guns that are factory
With stock parts, they work
amazing.
almost like they manufactured it that way.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like they warranty it to work. They guarantee it works when it's in the right out of the box.
Who
But
knew?
anyway,
Who knew?
I know I'm boring though. I need to learn to accessorize. I need to be the like Harley Davidson gun store. Hey, I'm glad you bought a $500 AR. I now need you to buy $3,000 worth of super cool things that maybe are marked with the Punisher on it or something. Smile and wait for the flash.
You should have like a personal, like get stuff, have an engraving service where you could personally get stuff engraved for people.
I can do that actually.
Can you really?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because wait till you see my getting some knives made that say "Be like Mike."
Are they like
You'll like it.
butter knives?
So anyway, pulling out of the parking lot, turn around, drive through the middle of the parking lot. This young lady's just getting out of their car. And I have my window down because I don't have air conditioning. She's like, "Hey, Ernie." She's like, "Do you have a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So she's starting to walk. I'm still in my car at this point. So she starts walking toward me and like literally is already getting emotional. And I'm like, oh boy. And sad to say, this isn't like the first time this has happened. Now, this is, again, we're not going to share all the details and we're not going to use names. This young lady's going to help make some other people aware later. That will be up to her when she wants to help people do that. But I talked to her already yesterday about, hey, this is what I'd like to tell people. Can I tell people this much? Because she said, hey, I just want to let you know. And that's when she started tearing up. And she said, I think your class saved my life. And I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. And proceeded to tell me that she was attacked. And, again, it was a violent attack, and she had to do bad things to survive. And I'm not going to give you more details than that, because then it's a local thing and people know, hey, that's this person or that person. We'll let it all come out later. The point is she remembered, and I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to work. And she did things that worked, and she survived it. And I made a short 1-minute video. I made like 3 different videos, but I look stupid in my car, sweating to death, but that's okay. It really was, people don't understand that, Ernie from Cedar Valley Outfitters, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not even a gazillionaire or bazillionaire. So it was like something I needed that day, I have hard times too, as far as like, hey, guess what? You have lots of bills and we have things to get done, and you need new tires, and your daughter's car needs new tires, and somebody stole all our money. So I think, like I referred to it, some paychecks don't have zeros. They don't have numbers, not really about money. And to hear somebody say, I think your training saved my life, it's the kind of stuff that makes you
pretty powerful stuff.
Oh, yeah,
right there,
stay in the ball game. It's the same way I hope you feel when people come to you and say, just like I wholeheartedly tell people about you, is, to have my sister remember you and, remember that you comforted her in the back of the, ambulance, and that she remembered this and this and this. That means a lot to me. So it's one of those things that that young lady gave me a boost that I probably needed right now. And
it's awesome.
That I'm a motivated dude. We're going to keep going. But when I say it's just like one of those things that sinks it in a little more of, hey, don't get frustrated that the last women's class only had, 12 people instead of the 20 that it should. Because how it tapers off. People talk about it, say they're going to show up, and they don't.
Summertime's a busy time for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's a busy time for bad guys, right?
It is.
Yeah. And it is ironic, because you're right. Chris Mabey, we don't do women's self-defense classes during the summer because, he's been doing this more than 3 years. I think it's like 30 or 40.
Long time.
Yeah. But, he's like, hey, we don't normally have any turnout, and I got to travel and I got other things to do, so we won't have classes during the summer because nobody ever shows up. And sure enough, he's right. They don't show up in very good numbers in the summer. Or they didn't even show up in very good numbers right before the summer, which I find super weird, because people are like, hey, we're going on vacation, so no, I'll do it when we get back. It's like, hey, I'm going to somewhere that's, not that anybody's going to help you in the first 15 seconds of a fight in your own house or your own state, your own county, your own city, but how about let's go look at the idea that, you're going to go travel some places that you're not as familiar with, where you might find yourself in unfamiliar surroundings, and maybe even in other countries where you don't even know how to get help, and you don't want to take some training now to learn how to maybe survive a violent attack. So enough of that, right? So it gets frustrating sometimes when you have very valuable things to teach people. One of the last realtor places, that's all I'll say. One of the last realtor places I went, they're nice enough to pay for their employees to go through it, and they only had like 25% turnout. Now, I get it that actually realtors, they got to work, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, it doesn't matter what the day, daytime, nighttime. That's the very reason why they need some training. The situations they get put in, the hours they work, locations where they have to go. But it's just, you sit there and say, and one of the nice lady that was there, she's like, well, I'm sorry, there's only 11 of us or whatever. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have the 11 people that want to learn out of the 60 or 80 or 20 or 30 or whatever. You give me the 11 people that want to learn, they're there because they want to be there. Best students ever, right? They pay attention.
They're going to be the most attentive students.
Sure.
Anyway.
So it's one of those things where I tell myself, it's like, hey, all you guys are going on vacation, but yet you're not here. I'm thinking of like all the people that aren't there. It's like, you're all going to go somewhere this summer, and you probably needed some of this training before you went. But hey, I hope they all return safe. And it's never I told you so. It's like, wow, I really wish you would take this before you go off to college, go off to vacation, go off to another country. But I sell training, right? That's all I want to do.
Yeah. I was talking to my wife the other day, and my daughter. They both taken that class, a few other classes, but they took it 2 years ago. I was like, you guys need to go back for a refresher.
Yeah, they do. Your wife needs to take that class. You can punch me later. She needs to take that class where when you're in Washington, D.C., she doesn't go, hey, we're not from around here.
Yeah, right?
Where do we keep all this cash?
I
loved that story when you said that.
She is somewhat clueless when it comes to situational awareness. That's why she has me.
You're working on her. Yeah, you're working on her.
She's better. She's better.
No, but it was funny. Yeah. Hashtag we're not from here.
Oh my God! Speaking of like something totally unrelated, and my wife, I taught her how to use Facebook. Now, you guys out there got to understand, my wife was totally technologically deficient until about 2 months ago. She didn't even literally know how to use a computer,
Yeah.
because it's not her world. She grew up on an Indian reservation.
She's settlement.
She grew up on a reservation.
Oh, you usually correct me.
No, settlement here in Iowa. She's from North Dakota,
All right.
right?
Okay.
So reservation. So anyway,
Now, you said Indian. Can I say Indian?
she says Indian. You
Okay.
can say Indian. She
All
knows
right.
what she is. So I mean, she literally grew up in a log cabin with an outhouse.
Mm-hmm.
None of that stuff. Plus, she's of my generation, a little older. You know, she's
32.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right. Computers are not a thing for her. But anyway, she sees everybody else, our kids, other people with computers, and she's starting to feel left out. I said, cool. I sent her down to the public library where they have some free classes. She learned how to use a mouse, learned how to Google stuff, messes with that a little bit. And she goes, I want a smartphone. I'm like, you'll never use it. You'll never use it. I'm not buying you a smartphone. You won't know how to. Yes, I will. Okay.
Did she catch Pokemon yesterday?
No, but I'll tell you what. She has become a Facebook monster.
That's awesome.
She is sharing and reposting and liking things like nobody's business.
You should make her like a administrator on yours, and she can keep you like all over the place.
Yeah, it's just, I just laugh because I'm like, here's a woman that could not even use a smartphone 2 months ago, and she's just all over the place with it. So
Through frequent and realistic training.
frequent and realistic training, you can use the power of recognition.
What's your mom's first name? Sharon?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. She puts a lot of stuff. All right. She comments a lot. I like it.
Yes, she does.
She keeps an eye on you.
She likes to keep me on my toes and disagree with me as much as possible.
Yeah. And she's good devil's advocate too. I like her.
I'm working on her, though. You want to hear another success story?
I do.
So
What's this show about again?
I don't know. It's like two guys just talking randomly about stuff.
That's all right. It works.
So this, I'm going to bring it back to a little bit about guns.
All right.
So in 1996, my mother was running for state representative here in Iowa, and she asked me. She was totally. Let's just say she had this stereotypical liberal view of gun control at that time, and she asked me what I thought, and I told her what I thought back in 1996. My mom's still what I would call a liberal. She's definitely a lifelong Democrat. However, she totally agrees with me on the whole Second Amendment issue.
Sure.
Because
You can be both.
She became educated, right?
Yeah.
And she said, wow, that makes sense then.
You can be all about the Second Amendment and still be a Democrat.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I think there's like a guy that's a sheriff near here that he's kind of like that. He's pro-gun and he's a Democrat.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
True.
yeah. You know, the big D doesn't mean that you don't do good things.
And you don't mean Dallas.
No.
Going to big D, don't
Divorce.
mean Dallas. Not.
Oh, and Democrat. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Both of them will take half of what you have.
Yes.
Some of them take actually 74%. All right. 9mm versus 45. Glock versus 1911.
So we're going to stamp on all
9mm Glock versus 45 1911.
We are going to stomp on all the sacred cows right now.
You want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know.
So you go. Go. 9mm. Why do we want to carry 9mm, or why would 9mm be preferred over a 45? Just why?
You mean preferred?
Yeah.
Well, it has less recoil.
Okay, and how does that make a difference, Ernie?
Well, you can shoot it fast like a sewing machine if you do some training.
Okay. But can I train a whole lot and just be really good with my 45 and have some one-shot stopping power?
No. Well, absolutely every single caliber in the world has done some one-shot stops, yes. I'm pretty sure there's a 25 ACP out there that did a one-shot stop. It was not from a 104-yard shot atop a horse, but yeah. So, all right, let's stomp on cows. First of all, do I dislike the 45 ACP? No. Do you have to go get your gun because you have it? No. Do I think if you were shooting the same caliber and the same platform and you really are actually open-minded and you want to try to prove to yourself, like scientifically, which one can I shoot better? Absolutely. You're going to run a 9mm faster. And that's like important if you swallow that pill that, hey, guess what? You're probably going to have to squirt some bullets pretty fast into a human that is a determined or maybe chemically manipulated, enhanced attacker. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, you just got to look at all the different things. So you have more capacity,
Sure.
better recoil management. higher wounding capacity.
Oh,
You know-
now hold on, because you said wounding capacity. That's like ginormous holes in people, right?
No, that's the ability to put more bullets, like we just talked about,
Yeah.
faster, right? So
Let's
you
put
have the
some-
potential to put more wounds in the designated target
Let's put
area.
some metal into the meat.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I try to tell everybody is, hey, I'm a science and facts kind of guy. I'm not going to tell you a 9mm equals a 45 because it's science and facts, right? 45 has more recoil, which is why we're saying you can't shoot it as fast. To have more recoil, it had to have more power, right? But when that more power doesn't equal more destruction or incapacitating the bad guy based off real facts, like surgeons saying, hey, I can't tell you what caliber made that.
Yeah.
They can surely tell you a high-powered rifle hit a dude versus a handgun cartridge.
Because overall, handguns are kind of weak.
Yes.
I mean, compared to rifles, I mean.
Very true. You know, and it's one of those things that then everybody will be like, well, why did so many people die from this and that? Well, again, it's back to not political, it's factual. More than half the gun deaths in this country are suicides, which obviously most of those are done at point-blank range. Is that logical?
Yep.
If you're going to shoot yourself with a gun, you don't normally like put it in a vise and put it 50 yards away. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. In this country, most of them people, the vast majority of people shot with a handgun live because they're wimpy guns. We carry them because they're mobile and we can hide them. But in the gun world, they're wimpy, you know, and so when you shoot people with them and they run away and bleed here or there, you got awesome paramedics that scoop you up fast and take you to hospitals that have lots of experience of sewing people up and saving lives. All that equals most people live. So, no, but you're right. It's I don't care what you shoot. In the long run, honestly, if you have a modern striker-fired gun that works well and you shoot well with it, good for you. You're willing to train for it, good for you. But absolutely, when people like, you know, as soon as they say, why do you feel this way? Well, then that opens the door for us that, hey, I can shoot twice as much ammo for, you know, the same amount of money. That might help with proficiency.
It would. And, I mean, and going back to, like, we're not going to sugarcoat things on this show.
Mm-hmm.
This
has sugar, by the way, so I'm limiting my intake.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Okay. Does this have sugar?
I don't know. Monsters? No. Not that one.
All right.
Yeah. It's goat pee.
Good news.
Okay.
Good news. I hate goats. Anyway.
Yeah, you killed it with a hammer.
I know. So it's logical to assume, like I said before, if you can shoot a 9 or 45 well, then you're going to shoot a 9mm better. And if you're honest with yourself and you're not all about how you look and what's manly and, you know, it's not an ego thing for you.
Cobra had one, dude. Cobra had
he
one.
did.
Had cool grips.
He did. And so did Patton, right? With even cooler grips. But if you are going to be honest with yourself, then 9mm is going to be your choice because of all those things we already said.
Yes. But
I mean, nobody's saying
Cobra
you can't shoot a 45. I had a long argument with a good friend of mine who, you know, did all the same cool guy stuff I did. I never did convince him that 9mm was the way to go, but, you know, he's wrong. And Daryl, you're wrong. So
You told me about that. It was pretty heated, wasn't it?
yeah, I mean,
Friendly but heated.
Friendly. We never got disrespectful, and we won't, and because we're friends and, you know, we're peers. But
Have you come to accept yet that the Smith & Wesson Shield Performance Center 45's like the ultimate carry gun ever or not?
it is for the two people that wanted that.
Okay.
Like the underperforming single stack firearm. Yes, that's great for those people.
I liked all the people that called out. I think you did too, but what's her name? Julie, the professional shooter for Smith & Wesson.
Golab.
Galap. I can't pronounce her last name yet, but I like the people that jumped her shit, dude. You know?
Yeah.
And I get it. You work for them. You have to promote their
Well,
products. That's cool.
yeah, she's a paid spokesperson.
Yep, absolutely. A paid spokesperson. So, yeah. Would you tell your own mom to have that gun as her carry gun?
I just couldn't believe that they would, I don't know. I guess I
you and
shouldn't
I-
say I can't believe they're out there to make money, but really I can't believe anybody would buy.
Hey, if all you owned was other
something-
45s and
yeah.
you're like, dude, I got 15,000 rounds of 45. Now, people would say, well, that makes sense. Me, I look at it and go, dude, I would find somebody to buy all your 45, and the money you have will buy you even more than that in 9, and then buy a 9mm shield.
So when I got out of the military, I had to buy a firearm to do, you know, law enforcement stuff, and they required a 40, right? Smith & Wesson. Still do, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought one, and then I bought two, then I bought three, and I bought maybe 3 or 4 firearms in 40 caliber. And then as time goes on and I start to think more pragmatically and more realistically about my caliber choices, what have I been doing over the last, I don't know, year or so? I've been selling all those firearms. I no longer own any 40 calibers except for the one that I'm required to have. Everything else is 9mm.
Okay.
So that's because, I just don't talk about this stuff. I actually believe it.
Sure.
Right.
You mean you live it?
Well, you got to walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
Do you walk the walk? Do you talk the talk?
That sounds very cliche-ish.
Yes.
It's just back to the idea of, people shop at my store, and it could happen in any gun store. I'm just telling you, it's my store. Like, that's my experience because I hang out there more than other gun stores. But when you try to explain to some people that, hey, if I was Mike's evil twin and I weighed 180 pounds like Mike,
That's very generous, by the way.
whatever. So, hey, how you're shooting your 45 or your 40 or whatever it is, whatever gun you think's awesome, and like your arms are barely vibrating and your hands are barely moving because you have the proper grip and stance and all that. Trying to explain to people that, like, hey, you feel that little bit of recoil, that little bit of movement, how much your hand moves. So when you shoot your evil twin that weighs exactly the same as you, how much do you think your body's actually going to move? There's still a lot of people that talk about people being spun around when they're shot and this and that. And I'm like, wow. I saw a deer one time get shot and jump straight up in the air like 8 feet. And people talked about, see what that high-powered rifle did to it? The rifle didn't do that. When the bullet went through the deer's spine and like totally tweaked its nervous system, that would be the strength of the deer. The same thing that gives them the ability to jump over like 8-foot fences when they're running, right? So trying to explain to people that the bullet didn't somehow magically like gather more power, like suck it from all the Pokemans that it's flying over the top of as it goes across the parking lot. It's not going to gather.
That's some next level stuff right there.
Hey, I'm leveling up my friendship.
All right.
So, it's one of those things that try to get people to understand that, dude, they don't make people fly backwards. It's a great tool if you know how to use it. Don't count on it stopping anybody every time, and you get a lot of people that get pretty heated about that. The 45, 45
people
dude.
have a very emotional attachment to these things. I just don't understand it. I mean, it's not an emotional issue.
No. It's about tools to save your life. So, like, if that was a cell phone, there's people that, I hate Apple and I love my Android for this or that. But that's fine. But do they get, like, just frothy at the mouth, livid, emotional screaming about it? No.
But
like
would people,
Chevy dudes, right?
if people had an Android and it never worked right and they got crappy reception and you said, hey, this Apple works.
That's called Verizon. That's coverage from Verizon.
I have Verizon.
Yeah. Works right now in downtown, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't work. It's like on the northeast side of Cedar Rapids, and I live in like one of the highest points there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
I can fly my drone up like 100 feet and see till the end of time, but apparently my phone can't get a signal there from Verizon. So anyway, not that this is a U.S. Cellular commercial. It's not, but...
We're not bashing anybody, disclaimer.
No, I'm not a U.S. Cellular fan, but I tell you what, if I spend much time out in the country, I would have U.S. Cellular.
Yeah.
Works better.
Around here, that's true.
That's super important stuff for us to talk about.
Yes.
Maybe we could get a sponsor. I mean, U.S. Cellular would love us, other than you say like shit, and you said not sugarcoat, and Shania Twain. You said all kinds of things that were like shady.
Shady.
Real Slim Shady.
The real Slim Shady. Please stand up.
2 trailer park girls go round outside.
So
focus, Mike. Focus.
If your Android did not work
you would
consistently, you might switch to an Apple.
Mm-hmm. Especially when your Android is what you use to call 911.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, you don't just own it to play games. You have it to... Because truly, if it was for playing games, do you care? You'd get frustrated if it didn't work, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you don't
wouldn't
really
say,
care.
oh my God, I'm going to die because it's not working right. Or, oh my God, it puts me at a huge disadvantage when I'm battling other people for Pokemon.
Yes.
So it's an emotion. Like I always try to tell people, dude, it's boring, but, it's a hammer. If I built things for a living, like cornbread, hey, cornbread, see you. If I built things for a living, like cornbread, and you say, hey, this is the best hammer, I use a hammer every day. I use a hammer for my job. So why do you have that hammer?
He calls it a murdering tool.
He does call it a murdering tool, and it actually does kill people every year in this country. So I don't fear the ones hanging in my garage, but whatever. It's what he uses for his job, and he knows the difference of what works and what doesn't. And it doesn't matter what the name brand is; it matters how good is it, right? So, I don't try to tell everybody's like, "Hey, we heard you're the Glock guy. You're a Glock guy. Yeah, you're just going to try to sell me a Glock." No, I'll sell you a Glock if you want one. I'll tell you why one's good. And when you said, "Why do you prefer Glock?" I took that as like an open invitation to tell you why I'm passionate about it, why I think it's a great tool. Do you hear me tell other people to buy other guns?
I have heard you say that, yes.
Yeah, you find something that fits for you. And sometimes Glock just simply isn't somebody's budget. So, which you can get them free on the street corner, easier
Well,
than a
they're
computer.
easier to get than books, for sure.
I know.
Nobody reads in this
When
country
we talked
anyway.
about, when I wrote down current events, I'm like, stay away from it, stay away with it. It is a blatant lie. But anyway, so I just want you to have a good tool. And when you tell people, I love it. Of course, people are like, if you're going to be a sponge and say, my best buddy shops here and I think the world of him, Mike McAmeal told me to come see you and I'll do anything Mike says. So what should I buy? Absolutely buy a modern striker fire gun, a 9mm. And if you can afford a Glock and it fits your hand, right? You can use like the buttons and stuff. It's a great choice. Don't be emotional about it. But again, I could sit and do a whole show on literally, I'll just make a t-shirt instead and sell it. The top 10 reasons people don't buy Glocks. And the number one thing you hear a lot of people say is, well, everybody has one. All my friends have one of those. I don't want to have one of those. But I'm like, well, that's cool. Okay, we talking about like shooting deer or target shooting, or you're doing like, Thursday night competition with your buddies at the range or something? Great, good for you. But you told me, hey, I want a carry gun. What would you get? And when I said these couple things and you said, a lot of people start out with that whole anything but a Glock. What else you have other than Glock? Hey, I'll sell you whatever you want. Marcy will really sell you whatever you want. But I'll ask people, hey, can I just ask you why not a Glock? Well, I heard this, this, or this, or this. And it's like 99% of the time you're like, wow, okay. Never experienced that or seen that in real life or know anybody that has, but they read it on the internet,
So
kind of like recoil.
True.
Recoil in the internet, I find it's very manageable.
Yes,
recoil. Yep.
It is.
Yep. And the gun's not very loud on the internet when I shoot it too. So a lot of internet bandits out there. But we're kind of like on the internet. We're like on the interwebs. We're floating through social media right now.
Throwing our opinions out.
Pulsing.
Willy-nilly.
Okay. Let's stay focused. This is going to be like our worst podcast ever, but it's the most funnest. That's a word. Me and George Bush call each other, and we're like, that's funnest, dude. So, yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about training.
Okay. So, by the way, go ahead. What do you think about training?
Well, I just went to a class last night on force science. It was really, really
Taught by
Larry Hahn.
Larry Hahn.
Larry Hahn's kind of a local legend. Larry, he'll never hear this because he's definitely not an interwebs guy.
No.
But he's very well known in this area, law enforcement trainer, international law enforcement trainer. And he does a class called Force Science, and the focus of the entire course is the reactionary gap.
Sure.
So we're talking about the reactionary gap between the perpetrator's actions. So let's say a bad guy pulling a gun out of his pocket and the officer being able to react to that, get his firearm out of the holster, return fire, whatever. So
wait a minute. Are you telling me the 21-foot rule isn't about just shooting people that are closer than 21 feet?
no, it's not.
You mean it was like done as a reactionary gap story?
Yes.
Oh.
Because the reactionary gap
I see you wrote that on here for me.
I did. The reactionary gap it's not negotiable. If you go first and you have a gun, I'm going to get shot 100% of the time. Because you cannot process the information fast enough and react fast enough. If you stand still, okay?
Sure.
Moving to cover is part of it and all that.
I could miss. When you say
You
I go
could.
first, I could miss.
You could.
Yeah. What would lessen the chances of me getting you? I mean,
Well, so that's where this goes.
Oh.
So that's why officers sometimes have to do things before maybe it's perceived that it's necessary, because they need to go first. They need to look for pre-assault clues. They need to look for some indicators.
sure.
It's very, very, very important to have control of people's hands.
Yeah.
because hands are what we use to manipulate tools like guns and knives and screwdrivers. And
So you don't believe in the whole look in his eyes and that'll tell you what he's going to do?
I'm saying that maybe if you look at some of the current events that have happened and you look at it in the context that these officers know if they let the other guy go first, they're probably going to die, it may kind of give you a different perspective on their actions.
Now it sounds like you're trying to defend the cops. But absolutely right. We talk about that sometimes in training, don't we? I watched, the famous calling bouncer dude, Jeff Thompson, like the Australian dude that kind of like, he made some of those concepts pretty famous of sometimes you got to go first. And you're exactly right. You know that I'm not there beating the police drum in class. Now, first of all, I back the police very much so. Unless you're out like murdering people. And when I say murdering people, like I see you wandering the streets, shooting people in the back of the head that are on their knees. What some people say is the police going around murdering people. You're exactly right. Isn't it amazing that, first of all, you can show them all the evidence once the trial's over, right? It's called due process. It's supposed to be like fair.
Something we do in this country.
Why didn't they show that right away? I don't know. Do you want them showing all your videos for your trial before it ever goes to trial out in the public? So, yeah, due process. It's amazing. So, I think it's like one of our rights or, Anyway, the problem is you and I both know, and there's, you know what? We could sit and watch some bad films, and we know them. You could watch this famous film and that famous film and this famous film. And whether they're cops or military or, this special dude or that special dude, you could have a bunch of different people all pick up on different things or the same thing. A lot of times the same thing. Did you see the target glance or did you see him shift his weight or did you see that?
Did you see him put their feet together? They're laying prone on the ground with their hands underneath them and they suddenly put their feet together. Why do they do that?
Because people don't do push-ups with their legs spread?
And they're about ready to roll over and shift their weight so they can shoot you.
Wow. Yeah. But if you don't tell people what to look for, they won't see it, right?
Right.
And just like the thing, I've had people, and I enjoy the questions. Like, I want the challenge or whatever, and it's not that they're challenging me, but they're like, hey, did you see that video? And I'm like, yeah, what we can't tell from the video when that officer put his hands on him from behind, when you got mad that he elbowed that guy in the head is, did you see him get one handcuff on? And you and I on the internet can't feel whether that guy tensed up and started to move. Because how many people get one handcuff on and get a little bit of fidgety and here comes the fight, right?
Right, because when, a lot of times when the handcuffs go on is when they're like, oh, crap, it's real now. Yeah. I'm going to jail. Well, no, I'm not going to jail. That's when they start fighting.
They might even be smart enough to know that when that officer gets one handcuff on, they now attached one of the pretty awesome weapon.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like kind of like, why don't you go and try to see? And I know it's somewhat hard as a civilian, but go find some of the pictures of like a open handcuff stuck in some dude's eye from being slung at him. Because you tend to be able to swing things pretty hard when they're attached to your body, can't you?
Yeah.
So, but again, do you have a jury? Do those officers ever get a jury that you and I get to put on one handcuff, let the other one dangle openly, and then start smacking the jurors and saying, would that harm you? Do you feel like you're probably going to maybe be in some serious bodily injury going on here in a second? So, but you're right. It's the same thing, but it applies the same thing to civilians, as in you go out and whatever you do. I tell women in class, sometimes the women's self-defense class, they have people that ask questions about guns at the end or whatever, and that's fine. We'll talk to them about it, whatever tools they want. But like I always tell them, whether you shoot the dude in the Target parking lot that said, get in the car, or he had a knife and you shot him, or whether he didn't, he had a gun and you stabbed him, whether he had a knife and you fought him and you end up smashing his head over and over and over in the car door until gray matter comes out of his ears, because if you go to a secondary crime scene, you're going to die. That's like a fact, only 90% of the time. So when you do that, you're going to be judged by a whole bunch of people that weren't there. And let alone they weren't there, what kind of training did they have to judge whether what you should have done was right or wrong? What kind of experience do they have of what really happens in real life? You were the first person to, I know it's all over the interworld now, but you were the first person to send me the picture of the Springfield XDM that had a bullet come the opposite way down the barrel.
Right.
Which I looked at it first, and it's funny because I kind of saw like some of the words, you sent it to me and said, look at this. And to me, it's like, okay, yeah, so what? His gun got hit in the side. that actually isn't rare. It happens a lot. But then when I read the story, I realized, no, I mean, it didn't get shot from the side, and it didn't actually get shot while it was cycling as in from the side, which isn't that rare. Seen that picture too. But it's like, okay, did it really go down the barrel? So we started looking more into it. That's what they're saying, which amazing, right?
So that brings up the question, the reason I sent you that is, so lucky shot, good on him for stopping the threat.
Sure.
But was that officer shooting at the bad guy, or was he focused on the bad thing?
Yeah.
And he was shooting at the gun.
And only he knows from the point of view that obviously, if I extend out and point a gun right at you and you're right over there, then you shooting at me is kind of shooting at the gun.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we understand. Like I said.
But that happens, right?
Sure.
We've seen that students do that.
Oh, yeah.
Focus on
They shoot the
tool.
Viking instead of the Viking target.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, luckily they usually only graze the super cool helmet, but
that's a processing of information problem.
you're always talking about that. Processing of information.
It fascinates me, this neurological
You
stuff.
can watch you can watch all that on those films in France. Again, like I tell people is the people that don't like me, the 485,000 of them that seem to write me nasty emails and messages. But anyway, the ones that don't like what I do or say, why are you watching these videos? And I can't believe you want to just pass this on and show people. If you watch the crowd as the truck drives through it, that's called processing information. There's a big white truck driving over people, but you don't see anyone who turns around and sees it immediately even realize what's going on. Because have delivery trucks accidentally run over people before?
Sure.
Yes, they have. You can go watch 1,000 of those videos on YouTube. It's horrific and people get injured, yes. But to process the information between, hey, that guy didn't put the parking brake on and it rolled over a dude, and oh my God, there's a daycare right there that they're all about to walk outside for lunch on the sidewalk, and we have to try to stop this truck from rolling forward. That alone would be a panicky situation, right? But it takes your brain a second to sort out the difference between, is the truck rolling forward on a hill? Hey, it's not on a hill. Hey, it's covered with people all over the front of it, and the guy's accelerating toward more people. All in that horrific scene that would be going on in real life, that's processing information. So, nor do we want to say duplicate that on a gun range, of course, but do we want to duplicate saying, hey, the day you use this gun, because you carry it everywhere you legally can, not just when you go to such and such store, it's going to be a lot of processing information of really bad things usually. Maybe nobody's blood and guts yet. Maybe you're not seeing dead people. Maybe you are. But I love it when people walk away saying, hey, you know what? I need to work on this drill, and Mike told me how to fix this problem, and I'm pretty good at this, but he did tell me how to get better at that too. But wow, you really got me thinking when it comes down to how fast can I think and sort out this, this, and this? And you're like, hey, that was like me only 5 years ago.
Sure.
5 years ago.
Sure.
When I said, hey, let's see if I can think faster instead of shoot faster.
So if you're going to the range and you need to work on things, could you kind of structure your training then?
Well, I would start by going and training with you. You mean like maybe have 2 different targets or 2 different sizes, 2 different levels of precision, 2 different commands, and all kinds of 2 different things?
I mean, you could, but even more basic than that. I mean, out of all the possible things that could happen to you, you talked about spider monkeys earlier.
Sure. You mean stick with what's probable?
Yeah. Maybe you train for what's probable
Sure.
within your life, right?
Yeah.
What's the most probable thing that would happen to you? And then train for those instances. And then maybe if you really suck at something, you
solve it.
So, I mean, personally, you never can be too good, but I'm fairly confident in my abilities with a firearm. However, what I am not confident in is my open hand or hand-to-hand defensive tactics skills. Mm-hmm. I've been working on that quite a bit this year. Because is it probable?
You might need some of those, right?
Yeah. Is it probable somebody might grab me before I even get my gun out?
Oh, and then you're going to go to hands-on skills first?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because you're not busy racking your slide.
Because I'm not busy racking my slide and I'm trying to create some distance. So, I mean, you have to look at what's possible, then you look at what's plausible, but you need to focus on what's probable. And then within those, that list of probable skills,
Sure.
kind of identify some weaknesses and maybe prioritize your training? I mean, you have to think these things through a little bit.
I understand. And look how many people better, when I say they better, when you talk about gun skills and training, absolutely, you know the thing, just like Rob teaches, just like you teach, just like anybody in the whole ICE thing, and hopefully a bunch of other instructors, regardless who they are. Let's work on the most probable thing. Let's sort out this stuff first because it's most commonly going to help you based off like real reports. But when you say what's plausible, that's when you better really start saying, hey, by the way, what's really plausible is outside the gun world stuff is, should I be nervous when I see a giant delivery truck idling near the next St. Patrick's Day sale in downtown, or St. Patrick's Parade in downtown Cedar Rapids? That's when people start saying, dude, you're paranoid. You're paranoid because you're going to worry about a big truck. No, I'd say it's plausible. Like, we saw it happen once. And by the way, it's not the first time that like cars have been used to mow people down. There's this thing called like Las Vegas less than a year ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It just was only 21 people outside. So, and not as,
that was on the strip. She drove up on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Because she was mad. So, so the thing is like, when you say train for what's most probable, there's like gun solutions for what's most probable. And of course, like you said, how about hands-on skills is because we're that believer that we're not going to see it coming because we're not Jason Bourne, right? Maybe they would want to like advertise the 4th Jason Bourne movie on our show. I just want to hear the theme song, dude. It gives
I know.
me
I
goosebumps.
love those movies, but Matt Damon really disappointed me.
Yeah, I think, I don't think we can swear on the podcast because you called him a super douche. But anyway.
Oh, you can't swear on this podcast? Because I already have.
I know, I love it. Yeah. But my grandma watches, so I try not to swear too much.
Does she really?
No, dude. My grandma lives out in the middle of the country. She doesn't listen to podcasts. She barely watches TV.
She even less technologically like adept than my wife.
My aunt is technologically adept, and she lives with my grandmother, so she could probably have her. And if she's ever doing that, I could say, "Hey, Aunt Betty, tell Niney to look right here. Hi, Niney." So I need to go down and see my grandma and buy some shrimp. Go down there. Go hang out in Georgia. I don't vacation much though because why? I don't have any money. I don't have any air conditioning, and I need new tires on my truck. But I'm telling you, it meant a lot to me that lady yesterday said, hey, I think you helped save my life. So I'll keep going. Training. Frequent and realistic. Just like this podcast drags on forever. No. People get frustrated when they say, you always keep telling me do this, this, or this, or this. And I'll be like, hey, are you awesome at it yet? Like, when you say training context and let's not. Yeah, go work on isolated skills. Because when Mike says, this is how to fix that, go get better at that. And then come back and, hey, you know what? Test them out while training in context. Text them out. Hey, maybe not just a bright sunny day on the gun range. Like, can you do this in low light? Could you do this like when it's raining? Could you do this? The whole thing where if it's not raining, it's not training, blah, 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 blah. You and I both know I'm not going to take a brand new student and have him try to learn how to draw a gun and use a gun in a rainy day outside, right? Miserable,
yeah,
bad.
because comfort's part of the process.
Wow, comfort is part of the process. Yeah. But we will do it like, I'll magically put up some like tents this Sunday because it's going to rain because I have to teach the whole class because you're not there.
I know. I feel really bad.
I do. I feel let down. Simon's listening. He's laughing. Magical wizard Simon hiding over there. Well, when I see myself on camera, I have to go over there. He's actually over there, but it looks backwards. We're just dragging on. All I can keep thinking about, dude, is locally, we have people that seem to be interested in, when I say locally, around my store and the people we know, they're up for this. And I look around and tell people, my feeling on, I will send people to other instructors if they know who they are and I believe in their stuff and I believe in what they're teaching. And
let me ask you this, because I've wanted to ask this question.
Okay, here we go. So, careful, I'll be honest.
Well, be honest, because, and you don't know this coming, because it just popped into my squirrel brain.
Talk to me.
If you were to recommend, don't even say a name, I won't put you on the spot, a form of training that you cannot get from you or I or anybody we personally know.
Oh, that's easy, dude.
Who would you recommend, or what would you recommend people go do? I mean, what's a good is a long range rifle class a good class, or what?
Sure, Bobby Lee Swagger.
I love Bob Lee Swagger. That
That's
was
fine.
when I first read that book, like before the movies.
Dude, the book was awesome.
I'm talking about the book,
Yeah, the book is awesome.
which I had to buy a Glock first, then get the book.
Yeah.
But I stayed up literally all night and read that book. It was like a page turner.
You said buy a Glock first and get the book. Dude,
Because buying a Glock is easier than a book.
Yeah, but I got the Glock free with my book because it's so hard to buy a book. I was rewarded with a free Glock. It was like on the corner of like 1st and 15th or something. They were handing them out.
All right. Like
Yep.
toasters.
You know, people think that we don't respect the problem with gun violence when we say that. How about I just worry about all violence? And what I don't worry about is them handing out Glocks at like Washington High School,
Yeah.
where they do have like books that you can read for free and access to
it's kind of
computers.
a library. But what training would you recommend?
Definitely, dude, I'm always going to say go to Mass Ayub when he comes around once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when people say, oh, that's because you host him, then, dude, go see him somewhere else. Dude, it's not all dudes. There's women. Please, young lady.
Dude is like a general term for
Yes.
you guys.
Please, person that wants to further your education.
You general populace things.
You know, go to Mass Ayub. You know, last year he came, earlier this year we had him in April. Before that, he was over in Des Moines with someone else hosting him. That's a lecture that will wake some people up and make you realize the whole aftermath thing. You know, obviously, Craig Douglas, huge deal. And like you said, when people are like, okay, it's not your training or maybe something you're not associated with, there's times I'm still going to tell you, like I did Friends this summer, say, even though I teach this, go to this class. Go listen to this guy tell the story. And I'm not doing that to buy credibility because they're going to say the same things I do. I guarantee you Omari taught the class somewhat different than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Same drills, right?
Sure.
But what was his lecture? What was that? And I never got to listen to Omari much, but
Well, every instructor brings their own life experiences.
dude, I love it. Yeah. And just like, because I do work at a gun store where you run into people that are like, dude, you weren't Delta, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Okay, I get it. You're going to be one of those guys that's all you'll learn from. Well, I don't know. Omari was in the military for 20-something years. So they can listen to him. Or like the guy on Facebook that, you know, told me he wasn't going to learn anything from our, quote, little classes, blah, blah, blah. You know, and like I said, you don't go around saying, I was in the military 22 years. I don't even want to go around saying that's your... I like to tell people who you are and where you came from because I know what you're going to say when, yes, you got training that you used in your jobs that you did, the wide variety of jobs you did, but there's a lot more to learn now than there was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So there's more places to go learn valuable information based off people finding out some stuff works better to do it differently than what the military teaches. Some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, within context,
Dropping
right?
huge bombs on a lot of people works awesome, but you and I don't have that option.
You know, I had this little revelation, I guess, the other day. So there's a training process, I guess, if you will, in the military, and it starts out with individual tasks. Like you learn, like how to shoot your weapon and how to, you know, do this and that. Those are called individual tasks, and then you take those and you put them into collective tasks, which your squad learns how to work together, and then your company, and then your battalion, and then your division, and it keeps ramping up, and that's kind of their force management or their training paradigm. But doesn't it sound a lot like what we're kind of advocating for you? Like you start out at the most probable thing, and then you work, you know, maybe you start doing plausible things.
Sure.
So the military has been doing that for years and years and years. They just call it something different.
Sure.
So I would say that kind of validates the whole thought process because nobody can say the military is not successful at training people.
No, nobody can say that.
I mean, they can, but they would be wrong.
Yeah. They do a lot more real world testing, don't they?
Yes. They absolutely do.
They risk a lot, just like police. Both, you know, they're all in jobs where, hey, guess what? You're training for something that might turn out to be real and it hurts. Speaking of police, so it's not a political... Can it be a political show? I don't care.
It's your show. Do what you want.
It's not really my show. I want more people to say, hey, talk about this, unless it's like, do you like Ford? Do you like Chevy? I have a problem with Chevy because it's always the red Chevy truck's fault. But the general attitude in this country, and when I say general attitude of some people, I don't care. Some people, the cop hating going on, it's pretty crazy. So even though I have very little details and I'm going to drag you into it and a whole bunch of other people I know, we're going to like totally have like a law enforcement day where we have a big Sparty in my parking lot that doesn't involve alcohol, unfortunately. But so I'll get you that date because I'm going to make you be there.
I'll be there.
We're going to have some cool people show up. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things to where, and it isn't really, how do I want to say it? It's not, I don't want this to be, hey, look what Cedarville Outfitters is doing for the cops. I think people that know me know that I respect law enforcement. And if you're a douche canoe, I'll tell you that, but I'll still respect what you do for a living. I think you told me that was like respect the rank and not the guy or whatever. How's that work?
The phrase has been used before.
Sure. With some other phrases I've heard you say. Yeah. I can still remember the name of the one guy in the military you don't like. I'll always remember that story. So anyway, but I want it to be, it's not all about, hey, look what Cedarville Outfitters is doing for the police, or look, they like it. People know that I respect the police. What I'm going to turn this into is I want like interaction with the public. So that's where I'm going to like go forth and say, okay, cool. We're going to have like the whole parking lot of the entire area where the church is, and we're going to see how many different law enforcement agencies we can get to show up there, have a representative, or even people on duty swing by, get to have their lunch there. It's going to be free food. It's going to be cool. But more importantly, I want people to come interact with them, and say thank you, because sometimes cops don't hear the word thank you. You know what it's like.
Well, they don't. And the biggest thing, the main thing, the number one thing that bothers me about this entire...
This is going to be serious because you 3 times said the thing.
Yeah, the whole we hate cops, they're executing people scenario is the assumptions, right? Yeah. Apparently, it's okay to profile police officers and say they're all racist and are out to get people for doing nothing. Mm-hmm. But we can't do that for any other group. It's okay to do it for cops, but nobody else. I don't like disingenuous people. I don't like people that have double standards. That's why I'm saying I don't tell people what to do and why I'm telling them what to do. But that's why I don't.
I pay you to tell them what to do.
I try not to judge people for their choices because it's not my life, right? It's not my choice. You need to decide what's best for you.
I carry a 1911 38 Super.
I'm going to give you the best advice I can, and then you do what you want, all right? This is America. It's a free country. But to make it a free country, and if we're going to say we're all equal, then we truly need to be equal. You can't say that this group over here cannot be profiled, and that is racist, and then go back and say that the cops are all exactly the same. Like every cop in the United States, how many are there? 3 million are doing the exact same thing because there's some kind of monolithic, amorphous blob that nobody thinks individually, and everybody is just...
Simon's smiling because that was like the most syllables I ever heard.
He's like, this dude is on a rant. I am. I'm getting emotional because it really irritates me that...
How about a logic bomb? What you mean
tell me
is
a logic bomb.
Don't judge all Muslims by the actions of a few?
Or don't judge any group by the actions of a few.
No, I'm asking.
Yes, exactly.
Do we get given that advice all the time?
Yes, we do get given that advice.
But if you turn around and say don't judge all gun owners by the actions of a few, it's the gun's fault.
It's the gun's fault.
Sure.
Or all cops are racist because,
Hey, I read an article just in the paper the other day, in the Iowa paper, about an Iowa police officer that his charges against him or, the sentencing against him was upheld by the Supreme Court, and he's going to prison. He is in prison. So do cops do things wrong and go to prison? They sure do. The difference is every other person's job, every person at General Mills or Quaker Oats or Rockwell, nobody wears a body camera 24/7 during their job.
Nobody's expected to fix a problem they did not create. Yeah,
you mean like...
For the most part.
Sure. And, I have a friend locally. He'll remain nameless. We were talking about the fact that he tried to kind of like do something, try to put together this group of people that would maybe try to help figure out a solution in the next 15 or years. I talked to Simon about this when I met Simon. Yeah, you could call it that. But you know what? It's basically true. We're going to go back to this idea. People whine about what the police do, or whine about, the police are harping on my kid again, or the police did this, or the police did that, or the police showed up at my kid's school because the teachers called, right? The teachers called because this kid was violent or made a threat toward the teacher. So the police have to show up. I mean, they have to actually respond to.
It's their job.
It's called call to service.
Calls for
Is that what it
service.
is?
Yes.
It's like calls for service. So the funny thing is, like, wait a minute. Do you want the cops to show up when you call? I mean, I think it works that way. So you're mad the cops showed up. How did we get to this point? How did this kid who's a thug who threatened the teacher and disrupts the class that's in a school that has free books and computers for use, by the way, how did we get to this point? And so when the cop shows up and you're unhappy with how it's handled, not getting to know the whole scene or what was said right before the 3 seconds of the video you see on the internet is, really, let's think about it. We're asking cops to be the babysitters of America. You know, do you know anybody? Because I do. Do you know people that have taken calls that were, my kid's totally out of control, he's not listening to what I say, and you literally have to respond to a house and find out that, like, he's not doing his homework and he won't eat his broccoli and he's in his room, like, throwing things against the wall, wrecking his G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. And so the parents call the police.
Yeah.
Because would you, like, take a belt to that kid and discipline him anymore?
No.
No.
That wouldn't go well for you.
No, I mean, it worked for me and you. We grew up okay.
Yeah.
You know, but you can't do that anymore. And when people say, if you can't correct a child, you know, without touching him, then there's something wrong with you. I don't know. A couple, like, dozen generations it worked. But that's how we got to where we're at, right? Lack of discipline.
Lack of discipline. I would agree with you. Lack of discipline. And there's many ways to instill discipline, but discipline.
Stable homes.
Stable homes.
And does stable home require an income bracket, in your opinion?
No, it doesn't.
I saw that on the Facebook, and yes, my wife's right. I get wrapped up in these things, but I'm sick of seeing there was some lady on there saying, you know, hey, you're fortunate enough to have a job that pays what it does. And I'm like, wow, I was fortunate enough. You mean to, like, start my business and work for the last 15 years and work like 60 to 80 hours a week and whatever, and work on weekends and not go kayaking this weekend? I'll be on the gun range, but it'll be raining. So
you wouldn't have had fun anyway.
Yeah. So the point is what people call fortunate, other people worked for. And the other thing is this day and age of, let's see, how far do we take this? So you have a whole bunch of people that want things for free and they don't tend to appreciate it. You and I were disciplined and there was consequences. And those consequences of what we did when we were younger taught us that, hey, sometimes when you do stuff, like the old saying, stupid hurts sometimes. So don't do things that are stupid. Don't do things that might get you hurt. And that's why your parents yelled at you. And it was okay to discipline people that way. But when I have people telling me that, you know, these families aren't in this income bracket, so they can't do this or this. I come from a family that has had poor people. I've been poor. I definitely have been poor. I've been poor a lot more recently than people would think. But definitely, like, when I moved to Iowa, very poor. And I know a lot of people who they literally make $12,000 to $18,000 a year, like 5 or 10 years ago. Is that a lot of money? No. Are you making more than
poverty
that?
Level.
Yeah.
I think poverty level is like 21.
And you know what? Their house is clean and well maintained, and they have respectful families, and it has nothing to do with how much money they have. It's weird how that works, but
it is weird.
Yeah, but the people I know that have had the most things given to them with little to no effort, they seem to have little to no value in it, and they don't respect it, and they think people owe them more stuff. It's kind of annoying. I thought about that yesterday. I literally was standing in line yesterday at Casey's while a lady held her phone to the ear, and she was telling someone, you could almost hear both sides of the conversation. You're in Casey's, like, talking louder than I am right now, with like 8 people in line behind you, pushing a baby stroller, and you have like a 5-year-old. And she's buying bottles of bug juice and 2 bags of chips and some other drink with her EBT card, right?
Yeah.
Talking out loud, when I say holding up the whole line, you know, it's those little things that drive you nuts. Like, you're in front of the line and you're on your phone, and when they tell you how much it is, then it dawns on you should get your purse out of the little pocket that's down below the baby in the baby stroller, and then you get it out, and then you start looking for,
instead of being ready,
what I thought was your money, but no, it was your EBT card. So, and then people are like, oh, people need assistance. Don't be mad at them. Not everybody's the same. I understand. I'm talking about this lady. So you're loud and you're annoying, and you're telling someone about how you can't be at this appointment or that appointment. This is like real life situation. Lady at Casey's will remember it. Well, I can't be there then, or I have this going on, or I have that going on. Some type of, discussion of when they could get together. And it's like, okay, Meanwhile, while I drive my truck that's rusty and has bald tires and no air conditioning, working my butt off, not spending much time with my family, not making as much money as people think. Otherwise, I'd have air conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Is, you know what? You're buying your kid bug juice and potato chips for lunch. And, I don't know how long you've had the EBT card, but you have like a 5-year-old and you have like a newborn in there. So people say it's mean when you say, you remember when if you couldn't afford kids, you didn't have them? And does accidents happen? Yep. Should you have another one 4 years later? Maybe not. Costs money, right? Like, that's called personal accountability. Like, have a plan. And so when you meet people these days who say, we're going to get married first, then we're going to do this, and then we need to save up, and, we're going to plan to have kids then and this and this, they're almost like seem weird. They're the odd people out, right?
Yeah.
Like saying, maybe we can't afford this and this yet, so we better do this. And that used to be called normal life before free phones and stuff like that.
Before free phones and all
Yeah.
that. But I mean, and then
So
those
wait,
people.
the government does give away free phones to certain people, right?
I think I've heard that. I have not personally seen that, but yeah, I think that's been a program.
Okay, so maybe phones are easier to get than a Glock on the street.
Yeah, phones are definitely easier
Okay,
to get than
all
a
right.
Glock.
Can you use your phone to call a place to sell you a book?
Wow, now you're getting really complicated.
I know. Half price book store. It's always like, it's open like 55
But I
hours
mean,
a
the
week.
point though is of this whole thing is maybe you shouldn't judge people as a group, and maybe the number one thing you shouldn't do is assume that police officers are up to no good when they're just trying to do their job.
Yeah, I've never really seen any just randomly go around killing people.
And maybe if you don't understand some of the policey things that we've been talking about, like, hey, they have to look for, is the guy tensing his arm? If that guy won't.
Assault clues?
Yeah, right. So if that guy won't move his hand from behind his back, even though you've repeatedly told him 3 or 4 times, that could be, that could be a lethal threat to you. But it may not look so great on the YouTube video.
Way to reel us back in here, Mike. So
I
let me
did.
ask
That's
you
my
something.
job. That's
you
my
reeled
job.
me back in.
It is my job.
Anyway, would you say Michael Anderson, who comes here from the Minneapolis area, the Golden State up there, isn't Minnesota the Golden State? No, it's California.
Yeah.
What is it?
Minnesota is like 10,000 lakes.
I know. Would you say that landing the plane's a good class?
It's absolutely fantabulous.
When people say, what should I do? I'm like, dude, you need a medical class. You need landing the plane. You need like CFS. Learning what people might act like or look like or the kind of things they say. And when I say look like, I don't care if you're white, black, short, tall.
You're talking about demeanor.
Demeanor, maybe actions, maybe even things they ask you, maybe how they look around. Powerful class, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to do that again. It's going to like absolutely
It's
happen.
always very well received.
It is very well received. Last time I think we had 14, 15 students. I want to get more. So we're going to do another one. And yes, again, I'm going to keep saying we'll put it on Facebook. We'll let the world know. We'll put it on cedarvilleoutfitters.org. But super powerful class. And watching the students getting to go through it's one thing, but it's awesome for the other students to watch each other go through it. So when the person's like, well, no, I didn't do that. I didn't draw my gun until I did this, this, or this. And like the other 14 students are looking at each other going, dude, that's totally not what you did.
Because you compartmentalize what's important to you and you kind of gloss over some of the other stuff.
Like you're not a good witness for what you just did.
Exactly.
Yeah. So classes that I would suggest, you asked me that. That was a long way here. Go to Mass IU, go to Craig Douglas, come down and train with Michael Anderson when he comes here to do Land the Plane, of which we're going to do a Land the Plane weekend with a Minnesota carry class for a non-resident Minnesota carry permit.
Awesome.
Which is well worth it if you spend much time in Minnesota. And I mean, I know nothing happens there. Like, ISIS recruits people and, people threaten to kill cops and all that there. But anyway, peaceful state.
No protests blocking interstates or
nothing.
any of that.
It's only one state away.
It's only one state away.
All right, instead of rambling on and making Simon like, dude, I got to get out of here. I got to go swimming today. I got to get another tattoo. We're going to make you be on this show someday, Simon. We want you on here. I'm going to like make you out to be like a fake character. I'm going to say like, this is like my total friend that, drag races cocaine off the ass of a hooker. That kind of thing.
What is that, drag racing?
Well, you have a line, I have a line.
Oh,
Never mind.
All right, I get it.
It's an adult show though, Mike. We can talk about such things.
I just learned something.
All right. So it's not. Hopefully, people have watched in the past to know that this is not meant in a humorous way. I think it's very important for people when they go forth and think about what they want to do political wise. Whatever, go do what you want. You're an American. Vote how you want. But it is not a joke. I'm not belittling what happened in France, but I put this question to a lady on Facebook again the other day, and I'm anxious to look for the update to see if she's answered. That, hey, your family member's killed by a drunk driver driving a stolen red Chevy truck, and they kill your family member. Who did it? Do you blame the driver? Do you blame the red Chevy truck? And that's not meant to be humorous. It's just simple. That's where, remember when you said people get emotional about it? It's just simply, does anybody get out and just literally scream and yell at the vehicle, blaming the vehicle? No. As a matter of fact, if you got out and started screaming and yelling at the vehicle instead of the driver, people would literally think you're probably crazy, wouldn't they?
They would.
But the gun world's different, isn't it?
It is.
As soon as you bring up the word gun,
it's emotional.
It's crazy and emotional. So again, watch out for the red Chevy truck. Till next time, big-headed Mike McAmeal, the lifesaver. And we'll be more organized next time, but it's okay. Real life. It's been a discombobulating week. There's a lot to think about. Always, always, always keep training. And we'll tell the whole world about a whole bunch of classes you're doing. I'll go put it online so they can register.
All right. Do that.
All right. Peace out.
Peace out.